My Korean Mafia boss husband's mistress demanded he choose. His 3 words shattered her world. The night Mira Voss told my husband to choose, every camera in the ballroom turned toward me like I was already guilty. I stood near the service doors of the Grand Hanuel Hotel, wearing a black waitress uniform, holding a silver tray of champagne I had no strength left to serve. Gold lights burned above us. Violins played softly. Rich women whispered behind crystal glasses. Men in tailored suits stood still because Han Teo was in the room. In Seoul, people did not simply know Teo. They feared him. He was the cold Korean mafia boss who owned hotels, ports, private clubs, shipping routes, and the kind of loyalty money alone could never buy. When he walked into a room, men lowered their voices. When he raised one finger, guards moved before he spoke. A black dragon tattoo curled from his wrist to the back of his hand, half hidden under his cuff, and people stared at it like it was a warning sign. To everyone in that ballroom, I was just the black waitress. To Han Tayo, I was supposed to be more. I was his wife, not his girlfriend, not his secret lover, not a woman he kept around when he was lonely, his legal wife. For 2 years, I had worn his wedding ring on a thin gold chain under my uniform. For 2 years, I had listened to him say our marriage had to stay hidden because his enemies would use me. For 2 years, I believed secrecy was protection. That was the lie that almost broke me. Mira Voss stood beside him in a silver dress, smiling like a queen who had already taken the throne. She was beautiful in the way expensive things are beautiful. Perfect hair, perfect diamonds, perfect cruelty hiding under a soft voice. Her father owned luxury hotels across Asia. Her family wanted Teo's empire. She wanted his last name. But there was one problem. I already had it. Mira walked toward me slowly, making sure everyone watched. She picked up a glass from my tray and looked down at my shoes. "So, this is the woman?" she asked. A few women laughed. I kept my back straight. Mira tilted her head. Teo has always been generous to street things, stray dogs, broken businesses, lonely waitresses. The room went quiet enough for shame to breathe. Teo stood across the ballroom, surrounded by his men. His jaw tightened. His eyes locked on mine. But he did not move. That silence hurt worse than her words. Mira stepped closer and lowered her voice, but not enough to hide it. "Did you really think a man like him would ever choose someone like you in public?" Then she poured champagne at my feet. Cold liquid splashed across my black shoes. Public humiliation, that was what she wanted. Not just to insult me, but to make sure I bent down in front of the same people who had ignored me for years. I did not bend. I looked at Teo. Move, I thought. Choose now. But he stood frozen, trapped between the woman he had hidden and the empire he thought he needed. Mira smiled because she thought his silence meant victory. Then she turned toward him and lifted her chin. "Choose, Teo," she said, loudly. "Me, my family, and your future. Or her." The ballroom stopped breathing. I slowly placed the tray on the nearest table. My hands were steady, even though my heart was breaking in real time. Then I reached under my collar, pulled out the chain, and showed the ring. A gasp moved through the room. Myra's smile slipped. Teo took one step toward me. I held the ring in my palm and said, "You don't have to choose me now. I should have chosen myself before you ever made me a secret. If you were Seller in this humiliation beat, would you stay silent or walk away? Comment, walk away if you believe dignity should never beg for a seat." Then I turned and walked away. But this was the shocking twist. That was not the moment I lost everything. That was the moment my counterattack began. Before I became Han Teo's hidden wife, I was Seller Monroe, a waitress at my aunt's soul food cafe near Itaewon. My Aunt Patrice raised me after my mother died. She was loud, honest, and impossible to scare. Her cafe was small, warm, and always smelled like butter, garlic, and peach cobbler. Soldiers came there when they missed home. Nurses came there after long shifts. Rich men came there in dark glasses, pretending they did not want comfort food. That was where Teo first found me. It was raining hard that night. He came in alone, but 2 black cars waited outside. His suit was wet, his cheek was bruised, and his tattooed hand was wrapped in a white cloth. I knew immediately he was not a normal businessman. Normal businessmen did not make grown men lower their eyes through a window. I served him coffee and shrimp and grits. He stared at the food like kindness confused him. "You always feed strangers?" he asked. only the ones who looked like they might fall over. His mouth almost smiled. Almost. After that, he came every Friday, same back booth, same black coffee, same quiet eyes following me as I worked. He never flirted like other men. He did not throw money around. He did not call me beautiful every 5 minutes. He just watched me like I was the only peaceful thing in his life. One night, after closing, he helped me carry trash bags outside. I laughed because I knew his men were probably horrified. "You clean tables and take out trash?" I asked. He looked at me. "For you, yes." That was how he got past my guard, not with diamonds, with quiet moments that felt real. 3 months later, he asked me to marry him in the cafe kitchen while my apron was covered in flour. "I do not know how to love properly," he said, "but I know I do not want to live in a world where you are not mine." I should have heard the problem in that sentence. Mine. Not safe, not respected, not seen, mine. But I loved the lonely man behind the dangerous one, so I said yes. We married at a small registry office on a grey Tuesday morning. No flowers, no guests except my aunt and one lawyer. Teo wore a black suit. I wore a cream dress from a thrift store. My aunt cried so hard the clerk handed her tissues. For a while I thought our secret marriage was romantic. Then the secret became a cage. Teo never took me to public events, never introduced me to his board, never corrected articles that called him single. When I asked why, he always said the same thing. "My enemies would use you." At first I believed him. Then I noticed his enemies knew where his cars went, where his guards lived, which clubs he owned, and which politicians owed him favors. But somehow nobody knew about me. That was when protection started to feel like shame. His nephew Roan was the first person from his family who treated me like I mattered. Roan was 10 years old, too smart, too hungry, and too lonely. He found my cafe one afternoon after sneaking away from his driver. "1 beef stew," he said, climbing onto a stool. "And don't call my uncle." I leaned closer. "Who is your uncle?" He narrowed his eyes. "That depends. Are you loyal?" I laughed for the first time in days. Roan kept coming back. "He said the Hahn mansion was cold," he said. His uncle drank black coffee alone and stared out windows like someone had stolen his soul. He said nobody at that house hugged anyone unless it was for a funeral. At my cafe, he ate cornbread, helped Aunt Patrice wipe tables badly, and called me Auntie Sella before anyone in Teo's world knew I had the right to that name. One day he saw the ring chain under my shirt. His face became serious. "Why does Uncle hide you?" I looked away. "He says it keeps me safe." Roan frowned. "Then why do you look sad?" Children cut through lies faster than lawyers. I had no answer, so I smiled and touched his hair. Maybe some men are strong in the wrong places. Roan looked toward the window, where Teo's black car had just pulled up. "Then Uncle needs to learn better." He was right, but by the time Teo learned, I was already preparing to leave. Mira Voss entered my marriage like perfume in a room where someone was trying to hide smoke. At first she was only a name in business articles. Then she became a photo beside Teo. Then she became a rumor. Then she became the woman hotel staff called Mr. Hahn's future wife while I carried coffee past them in uniform. The first time I heard that, I almost dropped the tray. Almost. But women like me learn early how to keep moving while our hearts are breaking. I showed Teo the headline that night. Han Voss Union, expected to reshape luxury hotel market. He looked tired. "It is business," he said. "Is marriage business too?" His jaw tightened. "You know what we are." I laughed softly. "Do I?" He reached for me. I stepped back. That was the first night I slept without the ring around my neck. After that, Mira became bolder. She came to my aunt's cafe wearing sunglasses and a white coat that cost more than our monthly rent. She looked around like poverty might stain her. Aunt Patrice stared at her from behind the counter. "You ordering food or judging the paint?" Mira smiled. "Tea." She did not drink it. She only watched me serve other customers. When I brought her check, she placed a white envelope under the cup. Inside was a $1 million check and a note. "Leave Seoul before you embarrass yourself." I stared at the paper for a long time. Then I took a picture, put the check back in the envelope, and locked it inside my aunt's old cookie tin. Not because I wanted her money. Because revenge needs evidence. A week later, Mira came again. This time, she arrived with 2 hotel security men. "I want to rent this place for a private event," she said. Aunt Patrice crossed her arms. "No." Mira smiled at me. That is sad. I wanted to see if the waitress could serve at her own goodbye party. I said nothing. She leaned closer. You are not built for his world. Women like you are entertainment. Women like me are alliances. Her cruelty was sharper now, more public, more certain, because Teo's silence had made her brave. That night, Roan came to the cafe looking scared. Mira asked my driver where I go after school, he whispered. My blood turned cold. Did he tell her? No, but she knows I come here. I crouched in front of him. Listen to me carefully. If she follows you, call me first. Then call your uncle. Do not be brave alone. He nodded. Then he asked the question that broke me. Are you leaving, Uncle? I looked toward the kitchen, where Aunt Patrice was pretending not to listen. I don't know, I said. But I did know. I had already started my comeback. My father, the man I barely remembered, had left behind more than old pictures. He left behind shares in Whitfield Maritime Trust, an American holding company connected to ports, shipping lanes, and debt rights across Asia. For years, I thought it was just confusing paperwork. Then a lawyer contacted me, a quiet Korean woman named Attorney Ji-hae-rin. She wore plain suits, cheap shoes, and the calm face of someone who knew where bodies were buried on balance sheets. When she reviewed my documents, she looked at me for a long time. Mrs. Han, she said, do you understand what you control? I shook my head. You control the port access Mr. Han and the Voss family both need. I sat back. Their biggest deal, she continued, cannot close without you. That was the power reversal waiting under my waitress apron. I almost told Teo. I almost gave him the truth. But that night, while we sat in my apartment, Mira called him. Her name lit up his phone. He turned it face down, but I had already seen it. There are moments when love does not die. It wakes up, it looks around, and it finally understands it has been sleeping in a burning house. So I kept my secret identity quiet, and I waited for the right room, the right witnesses, and the right mistake. Mira gave me all three. The Grand Hanul Gala was supposed to announce the Voss-Han partnership. Mira thought it would also announce her as Teo's future bride. She arranged the guest list herself, investors, reporters, hotel heirs, politicians, Teo's board, even 2 gossip channels that pretended to be business media. She wanted the whole city to watch her win. I wanted them to watch the truth arrive. Attorney G told me to stay away. You do not need to stand in the fire, she said. But I did, because Mira had built her power on making me invisible. If I disappeared that night, she would turn my silence into her crown. So I came in my waitress uniform, white shirt, black skirt, apron, hair pulled back. Let them see the woman they thought was beneath them. Let them remember my face. Teo saw me as soon as I entered the ballroom. His eyes sharpened, his guards shifted. One man touched his earpiece. Teo crossed the room fast. Seller, he said quietly. Why are you here? I lifted the tray. Working, his face tightened. You should not be in this room tonight. I smiled, but it hurt. You made sure of that for 2 years, he flinched. Before he could answer, Mira appeared beside him and slid her hand around his arm. There you are, she said. Teo removed her hand at once. But I had already seen enough. Mira saw it too. Her smile hardened. Do not embarrass me tonight, she whispered to him. I almost laughed. Cruel people always fear embarrassment more than cruelty. The speeches began. Champagne moved. Cameras flashed. Teo's men stood along the walls, like shadows with eyes. Every now and then someone glanced at the tattoo on his hand and looked away quickly. Mira took the microphone. Tonight is about loyalty, she said. It is about knowing who belongs beside power. Her eyes found me. There it was, the setup. She stepped down from the stage and walked toward me. Some people, she said, still holding the microphone, mistake kindness for importance. The room turned. Teo's face went dark. Move, I thought again. But Mira was already in front of me. She picked up a champagne glass from my tray. Tell me, she said, smiling for the cameras, how long did you think a man like Han Tayo would keep playing house with a waitress? The words landed hard, but I did not bow my head. Mira leaned in. Did you think his tattooed hand would hold yours in public? Did you think his empire would kneel for your little cafe? A few guests laughed. Teo took one step forward. Mira saw it and struck faster. She poured the champagne at my feet. Cold liquid splashed over my shoes. Then she turned to Teo. Choose, she said. Me, my family, and your future or her. The room froze. I looked at my husband. The old pain rose in my throat, but I swallowed it. Then I pulled the ring chain from under my collar. The whispers began instantly. Is that a wedding ring? Why does she have that? Mira's eyes widened. Teo reached me, but I stepped back. You don't get to save me after letting her break me, I said. His face cracked. Seller, that one word almost ruined me. But I remembered the check, the service entrance, the fake engagement rumors, the way I had spent 2 years being loved in private and disrespected in public. I placed the ring on the tray. My name is Cecil Monroe, I said clearly, and I am done being hidden. Then I walked out. This time, Teo followed. So did Mira. And behind us came every camera she had invited. The hallway outside the ballroom was bright, cold, and silent. Teo caught up to me near the elevators. Seller, wait. I turned. You had 2 years to say that. Mira rushed up behind him, her silver dress flashing under the lights. What is going on? She snapped. Why does she have a ring? I looked at her. Because I married him before you turned greed into a personality. Her mouth fell open. She looked at Teo. Tell me she is lying. Teo's eyes stayed on me. She is not. Mira went still. There it was, the first crack. But I was not finished. She pointed at me. You married a waitress? His voice dropped. I married Seller. Mira laughed like the truth offended her. Do you understand what my family is bringing you? Hotels, investors, political cover, clean. I looked at Teo. And that is why I was hidden. He said nothing. His silence was familiar, but this time it did not control me. I nodded slowly. You thought I was the weakness. No, he said. Yes, I answered. You protected your empire in public and loved me in locked rooms. But private love becomes public shame when your wife is left alone to be insulted. Mira raised her phone. I can ruin this. I can ruin both of you. The press will love this story. Mafia boss hides black waitress wife while courting Voss heiress. I smiled. That made her nervous. You should call them, I said. Call everybody. Teo looked at me like he did not know this version of his wife. Good, maybe he should meet her. I took out my phone and sent one message to Attorney G now. The elevator doors opened. Attorney G stepped out with 2 trust officers and a digital records specialist. She looked calm enough to frighten everybody. Good evening, she said. Mira snapped. Who are you? Legal representative for Seller Monroe Han, Attorney G said. An acting counsel for Whitfield Maritime Trust. The hallway went silent. Mira's face changed. Teo looked at me. Whitfield? He asked softly. I held his gaze. The trust your expansion deal needs. Attorney G lifted a folder, Mrs. Han controls the port access and debt conversion rights tied to the Haniel Voss expansion. No legal closing can proceed without her approval. Mira shook her head. Impossible. Attorney G turned a page. Also included is evidence of Ms. Voss attempting to pay Mrs. Han $1 million to leave Seoul. She showed the scanned check. Mira stepped back. There it was. The face slap. Not with a hand. With proof. This is the turning point. Comment, counterattack, if you knew Seller was not weak. She was just waiting for the perfect moment. Teo turned to Mira. His expression became so cold that even her father's guard stepped away. You paid my wife to disappear, Mira swallowed. I was protecting your future. My future, he asked. Yes, she said quickly. Your empire, your name, your bloodline. I did what you were too emotional to do. That was her final mistake. She thought Teo's silence meant he did not love me. But silence was not proof of no love. It was proof of cowardice. And now even he could see it. Teo turned toward the ballroom doors. Then he reached for my hand. I looked down at his tattooed fingers, then back at his face. I am not going back in there to be saved, I said. I know, he answered. You are going back in there to be seen. For once, he said the right thing. So I let him take my hand, and together, we walked back into the fire. When we entered the ballroom again, the entire room fell silent. Teo walked straight to the stage, holding my hand where every camera could see it. Mira followed behind us, but her confidence was gone. Her father stood near the front table, his face tight with anger. Teo's board members whispered urgently. His guards lined the walls, waiting for one command. Roan appeared near the front row in his school blazer, holding a container from my cafe. He looked at me, then at his uncle. Then he mouthed, "Say it." That child had more courage than most adults in the room. Teo took the microphone. For a moment he said nothing. I felt my chest tighten. Please, not silence again. Then he looked at me. And finally, my husband spoke. There will be no engagement to Mira Voss. Gasps rose across the ballroom. Mira's father slammed his hand on the table. Mr. Hahn, be careful. Teo did not even look at him. I have been careful for too long, he said, and my caution became cruelty. The room quieted. He turned toward the crowd. This woman is not my employee. She is not my secret. She is not charity. She is not a weakness in my empire. He lifted our joined hands. She is my wife. The ballroom exploded with whispers. Mira shook her head. Teo, stop! He looked directly at her. You asked me to choose. Her lips trembled. Then came the 3 words. I choose Sella. 3 words. Simple. Clean final. They shattered Mira's world. Not because he embarrassed her. Because he chose me in the exact room where she tried to destroy me. Mira's face twisted. You will lose everything. Teo looked at me. Then he said, then I lose it. For 2 years I had dreamed of hearing him say something like that. But the painful truth was, I no longer needed it to survive. That was my glow-up. Not makeup, not money, not a new dress. My glow-up was realizing I could still love him, and still leave if love came without respect. Attorney G stepped onto the stage and connected her tablet to the ballroom screen. Documents appeared behind us. Whitfield Maritime Trust, port access rights, Voss shell accounts, the $1 million check, messages from Mira calling me the waitress problem, audio of her saying, by the time he chooses, she will be too humiliated to stand. The room froze. Public humiliation had come back for its owner. Karma knows how to return a package. Mira's father turned toward her. What did you do? She whispered. I was protecting us, Attorney G said calmly. No. You were interfering with a legal spouse and attempting to influence a major business transaction through coercion. A board member stood. Mr. Hahn, if Mrs. Hahn controls the port rights, we do not need Voss. The power reversal hit so hard that Mira grabbed the back of a chair. 1 minute, she was the future queen. The next, she was a liability in silver heels. Teo faced his board. End all Voss negotiations, Mira gasped. You cannot do that. He looked at her. I just did. Face slap. Public. Clean. Final. Then he turned to me and lowered the microphone, but the room still heard him. I failed you, he said. I told myself hiding you was protection. But I made you carry loneliness and call it safety. My eyes burned, he continued. You should never have had to prove your worth to people beneath your dignity. I took the microphone from him. The room held its breath. I looked at Mira first. You thought serving tables made me small, I said. But honest work never lowered me. Your cruelty lowered you. Then I looked at Teo. And you do not get forgiven just because you finally told the truth. He nodded slowly. I know. Good. Because this was not a fairy tale where 3 words fixed 2 years. This was a comeback. And comebacks begin when a woman stops begging to be chosen. I left the gala alone. That shocked the reporters more than the hidden identity reveal. They expected me to fall into Teo's arms. They wanted a perfect romance ending outside the hotel doors. They wanted the cold Mafia boss, the betrayed black waitress wife, the crying mistress, and 1 clean kiss for the cameras. But healing is not a performance. Teo followed me to the curb. His driver opened the back door of the black car. I did not get in. Sella, Teo said softly. I turned. For the first time, he looked less like the most feared man in Seoul, and more like a man standing in the ruins of his own choices. I meant what I said, he told me. I know. Let me take you home. I am going home. He looked at the car. I shook my head. Mine, not yours. Pain moved across his face. Can I come? No. He accepted it. That mattered. The old Teo would have ordered protection, sent guards, bought a building, called it love, and expected me to be grateful. This Teo only nodded. What do you need from me? He asked. I almost said nothing. But pride is not always strength. Sometimes honesty is. Time, I said. Truth. And no more locked rooms. You have them. I walked away with everything they thought I needed him to give me. My name, my dignity, my trust, my power, my ring in my purse. And yes, in the language my audience would understand, she walked away with everything. But walking away did not mean I stopped hurting. Back at the cafe, Aunt Patrice waited with tea, slippers, and the expression of a woman who had watched the live stream 5 times. Well, she said, that silver dress girl learned the difference between shiny and valuable. I laughed. Then I cried. I cried so hard I slid down the kitchen cabinet and sat on the floor like a child. Aunt Patrice sat beside me and held my hand. I still love him, I whispered. I know, baby, I hate that. No, she said, you hate that loving him made you lonely. That was the truth. Over the next few days, Sol turned my pain into headlines. Secret wife of Han Tae-o revealed. Waitress high-risk controls billion-dollar port deal. Voss partnership collapses after gala scandal. Some people called me lucky. Some called me dangerous. Some called me brilliant. Some called me a gold digger, because bitter people always find a way to hate a woman who survives. But one comment appeared again and again. She won. It should have made me happy. Instead, it made me tired. Because winning in public does not heal private wounds. Roan came to the cafe every afternoon like a small emotional reporter. Uncle is suffering correctly, he announced one day. Aunt Patrice nearly dropped a pan. Correctly, Roan nodded. He is not drinking, he is reading marriage books. Bad ones, but still. I laughed to spite myself. He also fired 2 advisors who told him to deny you, Roan added. And he made the guards stop calling you a security risk. That mattered. Not enough. But it mattered. Tae-o did not flood my apartment with flowers. He did not send diamonds. He did not try to buy forgiveness. Instead, he sent one handwritten letter every night. The first said, I stared at your empty side of the bed and understood that I made you feel empty while standing beside me. I am sorry, the second said. I used enemies as an excuse. The truth is, I was afraid to be seen needing someone. The third said, protection without respect is control. I understand that now. I did not answer, but I read every word. That was the part nobody online saw. Revenge exposed Mira. But healing forced me to face myself. 3 weeks later, Mira made one final move. People like her rarely accept karma the first time. She filed a private complaint, claiming I had manipulated Tae-o, hidden my identity, and used our marriage to steal the Voss deal. It was desperate. It was also perfect. Attorney G smiled when she read it. She opened the door, she said. To what? To full disclosure. That was how we ended up in a closed-board hearing inside Haniel Tower, with Tae-o's directors, Voss lawyers, trust officers, and one furious Myra sitting across from me. This time I did not wear a waitress uniform. I wore a cream suit Aunt Patrice said made me look like money with manners. My hair was down, my ring was still in my purse. Not hidden, just not returned. Tae-o sat across the room, not beside me. That was my choice. Mira's lawyer tried to paint me as a woman who planned to trap a powerful man. So, Mrs. Han, he said, you expect us to believe you worked as a waitress while controlling assets worth millions? Yes, I said. Why? Because work is not shameful. He paused. I continued. And because my mother taught me never to spend money I did not understand. A few board members shifted. He tried again. Did you hide your identity to enter the Han family? No, I said. I hid my identity because people like your client respect money more than character. Attorney G lowered her eyes to hide a smile. Mira leaned forward. You think you are better than me? I looked at her calmly. No, I think I made better choices than you. Her face reddened. Then Attorney G played the recordings. Mira telling hotel staff to keep me away from cameras. Mira ordering fake engagement rumors. Mira approving the check. Mira laughing and saying, by the time he chooses, she will be too humiliated to stand. The room went silent. That sentence destroyed her. Not because it was illegal by itself, because it revealed her heart. Mira's lawyer stopped taking notes. Then Tae-o stood. Every person turned toward him. His tattooed hand rested on the table, the dragon visible under the lights. For years, he said, I believed fear made me careful. I allowed that fear to harm my wife. I will not ask her to clean up the consequences of my silence. Not one spoke. He looked at Mira. You wanted me to choose in a room full of people. I will choose again in a room full of records. Mira looked down. I choose my wife's dignity over your family's money. I choose truth over convenience. I choose the woman I should have honored from the beginning. My chest tightened. Then he looked at me. And if she never returns to me, I will still protect her name. Not because she belongs to me. Because I was wrong. That was different. That was not ownership. That was accountability. The complaint was dismissed. The Voss deal was terminated. Their shell accounts were referred for investigation. Mira walked out of the boardroom with no cameras chasing her. For once, nobody followed. That was the quietest revenge. People who live for attention fear silence more than punishment. After everyone left, I stood by the window, looking down at Sol. Teo remained near the door. "Are you okay?" he asked. I smiled a little. "I am tired of that question. What should I ask?" I turned toward him. "Ask what I want." He nodded slowly. "What do you want, Sella?" That question broke something open, because I had waited 2 years for my husband to stop deciding my life for me and finally ask. "I want the cafe expanded," I said, "not turned into a luxury brand. Aunt Patrice keeps control. Together," he said. "I want the trust to fund scholarships for girls who think survival is the same thing as dreaming. Together. And I want our marriage out of the shadows, whether we stay married or not." Pain crossed his face, but he did not run from it. "Together," he said again. For the first time, that word felt real. 3 months later, the cafe reopened with a new sign. Monroe House. Not Han, not Hanuel, not Voss. Monroe. Aunt Patrice cried when the sign went up, then threatened to fire anyone who called her emotional. The place was bigger, but still warm. Same cornbread, same peach soda, same old family photos. But now there were scholarship letters on the wall, community tables in the back, and a small stage for young women to tell their stories. Teo came that day without guards inside. That was new. He wore a simple black coat, no tie, and no king of the city expression. He stood in line like everyone else. Aunt Patrice made him wait longer than necessary. On purpose. Roan laughed so hard he had to sit down. When Teo finally reached the counter, I looked at him and said, "What can I get you, sir?" His mouth curved. It was small, but it was real. "Coffee," he said, "and whatever my wife recommends." The cafe went quiet, not shocked like the gala. Warm quiet, the kind that gives a woman space to choose. I reached under the counter and took out my ring. His eyes dropped to it. "I am not wearing this because you chose me in public," I said. He swallowed. "I am wearing it because I choose myself now, and from that place I can decide if I still choose you." He nodded. "That is all I want." "No," I said gently. "You want forgiveness." His voice was rough. "Yes, you will have to keep earning it." "I will." The man in front of me was still dangerous, still powerful, still carrying shadows I would never fully understand. But he was no longer hiding me behind them. That mattered. I slid the ring onto my finger. The cafe erupted. Aunt Patrice shouted, "Do not clap too loud. He is still on probation." Everybody laughed, even Teo. Later that evening, a reporter outside asked if I felt like I had gotten revenge. I thought about Mira losing her deal. I thought about the hidden identity reveal. I thought about the public humiliation, turning back on the people who created it. I thought about the counterattack, the power reversal, the comeback, and the way the whole city had watched a waitress become a woman nobody could dismiss. Then I thought about myself standing in that ballroom with champagne on my shoes, refusing to bend. "Yes," I said, "but not the way people think." The reporter leaned closer. "What do you mean?" I looked through the cafe window. Teo was inside, helping Roan carry plates badly while Aunt Patrice corrected him like he was new staff. I smiled. "Real revenge is not becoming cruel like the people who hurt you," I said. "Real revenge is healing so deeply that their cruelty can no longer define you." That line went viral. But my favourite comment came later, under a gossip post about Mira leaving Seoul. She tried to replace a wife and ended up introducing the queen. I laughed when I read it, because it was almost true. Almost. No one introduced me. I was already there, they just refused to see me. If this payoff satisfied you, comment, "She won," because Sella did not just get revenge, she got her name, her dignity, and her future back. 1 year after the gala, I stood in the same grand Hanuel ballroom again. This time I was not holding a tray, I was holding a microphone. The event was for the Monroe House Scholarship Fund. Young women filled the front rows. Some were black, some were Korean, some were mixed, some came from money, most did not. All of them looked at the stage like they were trying to imagine themselves standing there one day. I knew that look. It was the look of girls who had been told survival was enough. I wanted them to know it was not. Teo sat in the front row with Roan and Aunt Patrice. He did not sit like a man who owned the building, even though he still did. He sat like a man honoured to be invited. That was growth. Not perfect, but real. Mira was not there. Her family had sold 2 hotels after the investigation. She had moved somewhere quiet, where cameras no longer chased her. I did not hate her. That surprised me. But hate is heavy, and I had carried enough. When I stepped up to the microphone, I saw the exact spot where she had poured champagne at my feet. For 1 second, I was back there. The laughter, the whispers, the cold splash. The silence from the man who should have protected me sooner. Then I looked down at my shoes. Gold heels this time. Not because gold made me better. Because I liked them. That was enough. I smiled at the room. 1 year ago, I said. I stood in this ballroom and learned that betrayal can happen in public, but so can a comeback. The room went still. I was called a waitress like it was an insult. But waitressing taught me more about power than any boardroom ever could. It taught me how people treat you when they think you cannot help them. It taught me who says thank you, who looks away, who snaps their fingers, who leaves a mess and expects someone invisible to clean it. I looked at the young women. Never let honest work make you feel small. Never let someone's money convince you they have more value than you. And never confuse being hidden with being protected. Teo lowered his eyes. He knew that lesson had cost me. I continued. A woman does not become powerful when rich people finally clap for her. She becomes powerful the day she stops begging people to see what God already placed inside her. Aunt Patrice wiped her eyes. Roan clapped too early, then pretended it was on purpose. I laughed, and the room laughed with me. Then I gave them the lesson that closed the whole story. If someone only chooses you when losing you becomes expensive, do not rush to call it love. Watch what they do when there is nothing to gain but your trust. Love without respect is just another pretty cage. But dignity, once you claim it, becomes a key no one can take back. When I stepped down, Teo stood, not to take the stage, not to rescue me, just to meet me at the bottom of the steps. He held out his hand. This time there was no secret, no shame, no hidden door, no mistress waiting with a microphone. Just my husband still learning, and me no longer waiting to be chosen. I placed my hand in his. Roan ran up and hugged us both, almost knocking us over. Aunt Patrice yelled for him to stop wrinkling my dress. Cameras flashed, but I barely heard them, because the loudest thing in that room was peace. Not perfect peace, earned peace. The kind you get after betrayal tries to bury you. Revenge tries to harden you, and grace teaches you how to rise without becoming the thing that hurt you. That was the real ending. Not that Mira lost. Not that Teo finally chose me. Not that the world learned my secret identity. The real ending was this. I chose myself first. And from that moment on, every room that tried to shame me had to make space for the woman I became. I was Seilaf Monroe Han, a waitress, a wife, a daughter of a hidden legacy. A woman who walked away with everything that mattered. And yes, she won.